Step inside, where the walls remember, the shadows whisper, and the past never dies. The Holloway Mansion, a terrifying ghost story. Part 1. It was a cold, misty October afternoon in 1887. Jonathan Harris, a historian from Boston, stepped down at the small Willow Creek station. His long black coat hung heavy on his shoulders. A wide-brimmed hat shaded his weary eyes, and a sense of anticipation weighed on him. He had spent years studying abandoned houses and the secrets they held, and the Holloway Mansion was now at the top of his list. The mansion stood at the edge of the town, a sprawling Victorian structure, abandoned for over 50 years. The locals whispered its name with hushed voices, as if the walls themselves could hear and judge them. A dusty carriage ride from the station took him to the mansion. The fog clung to the trees like ghostly shrouds. The mansion appeared through the haze, looming and decayed. Its roof was cracked, windows broken, the faded paint peeling away. The wrought iron gate groaned in the wind, moving as if alive. Jonathan pushed the gate open. Inside, a chill wrapped around him, unnatural and sharp. The floorboards creaked under each step. Dust-coated portraits lined the walls. In the corner, a rocking chair swayed gently, though no one sat in it. He made his way to the library, planning to spend the night there among old manuscripts. At exactly 11 o'clock, a sound from the upper floor froze him. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate. They stopped and started again, closer each time. Jonathan told himself it was nothing, perhaps a wild animal or a loose shutter. But the weight of unseen eyes pressed down on him. With a trembling hand, he climbed the staircase. The hallway stretched before him, lined with cracked portraits whose eyes seemed to follow him. And then, at the end of the corridor, a door creaked open slowly. Jonathan approached. Inside, the bedroom was shrouded in darkness and dust. A tattered bed lay in one corner, and on the wall hung a faded portrait. A woman and 2 children. Below it, a nameplate read, Eleanor Holloway and her children, 1829. He reached for his notebook, but at that instant, the door slammed shut behind him. The room plunged into freezing darkness. Jonathan felt a cold hand brush against his neck. And then he heard a faint, sorrowful whisper, "You've returned, George." His throat went dry. "I'm not, George. First am." Let out a terrifying scream. The candle flickered out, and the darkness swallowed him whole. Part 2. The chill of that night lingered around Jonathan as he sat on the floor, heart racing, trying to make sense of what he had seen. The cold touch and that haunting whisper were too real. He was certain of one thing: Eleanor Holloway had been here, or something that had once been her. Morning came, pale and weak, through the broken windows. Jonathan made his way back into town, heading to the local library and archives. He had to know the truth. What had happened at Holloway Mansion? Hours of research revealed a story of tragedy. In 1831, a local newspaper article reported, "Horrific incident at Holloway Mansion. Mother and children found dead." The article described Eleanor Holloway, who had been driven to madness by grief after her husband, George Holloway, died in a distant war in 1829. Months passed without news of George, and Eleanor's mind unraveled. One stormy night, neighbors reported hearing screams. When they rushed to the mansion, they found Eleanor had taken the lives of her 2 children and herself. Written on the wall in blood were 3 chilling words: "He will return." Jonathan's hands shook as he read the words. The woman he had seen in the bedroom, her name was Eleanor. Children, the whispers, the cold, everything was tied to that terrible night. Determined to face the mansion again, Jonathan returned that evening, equipped with a notebook, candles, a small crucifix, and an old family medallion, a symbol of protection, or so he hoped. Inside, the mansion felt heavier than before. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. The portraits seemed to follow his movements. He made his way to the basement, the place where he had first encountered Eleanor's spirit. The door opened on its own, revealing the same darkness, the same chilling presence. In the corner, 3 shadowy figures stood, Eleanor and her 2 children. "You've returned," Eleanor whispered again. "I'm not George," Jonathan said, his voice trembling. "I'm Jonathan Harris. I've come to understand history." "History," she cried, tears streaking her hollow cheeks. "History has forgotten us. Everyone said I was mad, but I knew the truth." Suddenly, the room shifted. Jonathan felt himself swept back through time into the year 1831. He was no longer himself. He was George Holloway, alive and returning from war. Eleanor ran to him, the children clinging to her skirts. In that vision, he saw the moment Eleanor's sanity had shattered, the promise he had failed to keep. The vision faded, and Jonathan was once again himself. Eleanor's spirit wept, reaching toward him. "You must help us. The house, it keeps us trapped. Only someone who belongs to the bloodline can free us." Jonathan realized the horrifying truth. The mansion had chosen him. His family, through the Harris connection, was bound to the Holloway lineage. The spirits could not rest until someone from their bloodline acknowledged them. That night, strange things occurred. Every clock in the mansion ticked simultaneously, even those that had been broken for decades. Footsteps echoed along the halls, faint cries of children, the soft, desperate sobs of a mother. Jonathan followed the sound to a hidden chamber he hadn't seen before. Inside were scattered toys, children's clothes, and old photographs, remnants of the Holloways' tragic lives. In the center, 3 small gravestones bore the names Eleanor Holloway, 1802-1831. Thomas Holloway, 1823-1831. Alice Holloway, 1825-1831. The gravestones confirmed what he feared. Their spirits were literally trapped within the mansion, their lives stolen but their souls tethered to the house. Jonathan knelt before them, heart pounding. "I'm here to help. I'll do whatever it takes to free you." The air grew colder, shadows coalesced, and Eleanor's voice echoed, "The one who frees us must choose. It's a choice of sacrifice or escape." The mansion trembled violently. Walls seemed to breathe. The toys and clothes began to levitate, spinning in a whirlwind of ghostly energy. Eleanor's children reached out to Jonathan with pleading eyes, while the air filled with cries and whispers. Jonathan understood. He could end the curse, but it required courage and willpower. He must confront the house itself, the living spirit of Holloway Mansion, and force it to release the trapped souls. At exactly midnight, Jonathan gathered his courage. He raised the old medallion, holding the crucifix high, and spoke firmly. "I acknowledge you, Holloway Mansion. I acknowledge your pain, your grief, and your rage. I am part of this lineage. I will free them." For a moment, silence. Then, a deep, rumbling growl filled the room. Shadows writhed like living smoke. Eleanor's face appeared within the darkness, pale and tear-streaked. "Are you strong enough to face the house?" Jonathan stepped forward, unwavering. He felt the house resist, pulling at his mind, showing visions of endless sorrow and death. The floorboards cracked, walls groaned, and the ceiling trembled. Every fiber of his being screamed to flee, but he stood firm. The shadows surged forward, reaching for him, but the medallion glowed. The crucifix radiated light. A wind of unimaginable force swept through the mansion. The shadows shrieked and dispersed. The air grew lighter. The oppressive cold lifted. Eleanor knelt before Jonathan, her face finally softening. "Thank you, we are free." The children appeared, smiling faintly, their forms growing faint. "We can rest now," they whispered. And just like that, the mansion fell silent. No more whispers, no more shadows, no more footsteps. Even the clocks returned to stillness, the air warm and calm. Jonathan stepped outside into the dawn. The mansion stood quiet, decayed, but no longer alive with malevolence. He knew the Holloways had found peace. Yet, as he turned to leave, a faint smile flickered in the mansion's broken window, a reminder that the house had remembered, but the curse had ended. Part 3. The mansion was quiet now, yet an unsettling weight hung in the air. Jonathan had survived the first encounters, faced Eleanor's wrath, and glimpsed the horrors of the past. But the Holloway mansion had more secrets to reveal. As dusk fell, Jonathan climbed the stairs to the master bedroom once again. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, whispering faintly. And there, at the end of the hall, the broken mirror reflected something he hadn't noticed before. His own reflection smiling back at him. A terrifying, unfamiliar smile. Jonathan's heart pounded. The reflection blinked independently, its lips forming words. "You've returned." Before he could react, a cold wind swept through the room. The portraits lining the walls warped into grotesque faces, and from the corners of the room, 3 figures emerged: Eleanor and her 2 children. Their faces pale, eyes hollow, yet full of longing. "You've come back," Eleanor whispered, her voice echoing unnaturally. "I'm not George," Jonathan said shakily. "I'm Jonathan Harris. I'm here to understand history." "History." Eleanor's tone was mournful. "History has forgotten us. Everyone called me mad, but I knew the truth." Suddenly, the mansion seemed to shift. Jonathan felt himself pulled backward in time. He was no longer Jonathan Harris. He was George Holloway, returning from the war. Eleanor ran to him, clutching the children, tears streaming. In that moment, he understood the tragedy, the promise he had broken, the lives lost, and the curse that had bound the Holloway spirits to the mansion. When the vision ended, Jonathan was himself again. Eleanor's spirit looked at him with tearful eyes. "You are of our bloodline," she said. "Only one of us can release the souls trapped here. You must help." The mansion shook violently, as if alive. Footsteps echoed in every hallway. Cries of children pierced the silence, and Eleanor's voice rang in Jonathan's ears. "The one who frees us must choose." Part 4. At midnight, Jonathan stood in the hidden chamber. The 3 gravestones of Eleanor and her children glimmered faintly in candlelight. Eleanor Holloway, 1802–1831. Thomas Holloway, 1823–1831. Alice Holloway, 1825–1831. He raised the old medallion and crucifix, speaking firmly. "I acknowledge you, Holloway Mansion. I acknowledge your grief, your rage, and your pain. I am part of your bloodline. I will free you." For a moment, silence. Then a deep rumble filled the room. Shadows writhed like smoke, Eleanor's pale face appearing within them. "Are you strong enough to face me?" she asked. Jonathan advanced, feeling the mansion resist, pushing visions of sorrow and death into his mind. Floor cracked, walls groaned, ceilings trembled, but he stood firm. The shadows surged forward, but the medallion glowed. The crucifix radiated light. A wind of supernatural force swept through the mansion. The shadows shrieked and dissipated. Eleanor knelt before Jonathan, finally at peace. "Thank you. We are free," she whispered. The children appeared, smiling faintly before fading away. "We can rest now," they said. The mansion fell silent. No more whispers, no more shadows. Even the clocks stopped ticking. Jonathan stepped outside at dawn. The Holloway mansion still stood, decayed and silent, but no longer alive with malice. Aftermath. 6 months later, Jonathan published The Holloway Curse, a chilling mix of historical research and supernatural horror. It received acclaim for its haunting authenticity and terrifying narrative. Yet, occasionally, late at night, Jonathan would hear the faintest whisper, a cold draft brushing his neck, and clocks sticking at exactly 3:07 a.m., the hour when the Holloway's story had begun. He never doubted again that some houses live, breathe, and remember. The end.